What's up, campers? Si from Powley's Wild Adventures here. Now, if you tuned into my last video, you'll see how this year on our summer trip, when we set off, disaster struck before we even got to Dover. We ended up in a collision with Delilah, the Delica camper van, and ended up having to get towed back home. As a matter of urgency, I then used the next 3 days working crazy hours every day to turn around an overland conversion in my other Mitsubishi, this Shogun Sport, and just 5 days later we were back on the ferry again and heading into France. I want to use this series to show you just why we've fallen in love with France, and also why we've decided to leave the van life scene in favour of the overland life. However, before I get ahead of myself, it wouldn't be a Powley's Wild Adventure without some form of disaster or adversity. And sure enough, just 4 days into the trip, we get our dosage of that. Of course, if you learned anything about me by now, you'll know that I laugh in the face of adversity. So stay tuned and see what went wrong on this trip and how we've got around it. And hopefully we can show you why you should be taking a trip to France too. It had been manic 5 days getting to this point, but now with the truck all kitted out, even though I was absolutely exhausted, it was finally time to get off on our trip. As it's now peak season, the price for a return ticket on the Eurotunnel had doubled to £800, so we opted for the much cheaper ferry. We always find the most boring leg of the journey is the drive from Sheffield to Dover, and this year was no exception as the roads were absolutely crazy. At this point we're absolutely starving, everybody's exhausted. On a plus side though, we were worried about the space in the back of the truck for all the dogs, and it seems like everybody's taken to that really well. So with the first leg over, we've now just got to find something to eat. Luckily, France has got an answer for that. So here we are in France, after a long day's driving. That can only mean one thing. Pizza machine!
Not sure what we're getting. Pizza delivery.
Did you order a ham and cheese pizza?
I did. Yeah.
Tasty piping hot pizza for me. That's 2 pizzas, hot and ready to go. 15 minutes. Full bellies and high spirits, it's time to hit the toll roads again and find somewhere to sleep tonight. We don't normally like staying around Calais as the place has got a bad rep for travellers getting robbed, etc. But by choosing the 4x4 selection on Park for Night, we're able to find places that most others can't get to. It's very peaceful here. Currently still trying to work out where everything is. Everything is packed in places, so until we've worked out what's where, that's a bit annoying, but I'm sure we'll get it in a few days' time. As the sun rises over the lowlands, it's time to hit the closest town and find the nearest boulangerie and get some pastries for breakfast. A little daily routine that we love to have, and it's really that kind of way that marks that we're now in France and we're now on holiday. So for the first few days it's just lots of driving, boring motorway driving, but at least on the toll roads in France, traffic moves fast and there's barely ever any congestion. A far cry from what we get back in the UK. We don't have to get far before we realise that it's getting warmer, and we're glad that the aircon works in this truck. Morning campers, or afternoon campers. So we're on our first full day in France and we're working our way down to the interesting parts. Well, this place where we're at here, we've been before and we know it's a really cool place. So we've just pulled up to a spot that Jen found for us to have a swim because it's been stinking hot all day. And there's about 30 people there and 10 cars and there's no space and it's rammed. Not my cup of tea anyway. Anyway, a little bit further down the road we found a track which we followed through the woods, and that's taken us to this perfect little spot here where there's not a soul around, plenty of firewood, so we'll be able to get the fire going, have a little barbecue, and I don't know if you can hear it, but the river is just up there, so in a bit I'll show you a video of that because it looks beautiful. So we all had a nice refreshing dip just in time before the rains rolled in. We managed to knock up some shelter using the tarps that we had, and that meant that we didn't all have to be crammed inside the truck and we could still spread out and still had space to use the cooking area at the back of the vehicle. The rains continued into the next day, so we got our gear packed up, had a look at the forecast maps, and as we could see that further down south the weather was a lot better, we decided to get some miles covered and get down into the areas of France that we really like, the area that we're actually aiming for, where we'd be able to find some proper off-road trails. We're not driving for very long before we realised that the aircon seems to have stopped working. Naturally I just assumed we must have run out of gas, and so decided that we'd find somewhere to get it regassed. It's getting uncomfortably hot in the vehicle without any aircon, so we make the decision to get off the toll roads and take some more pleasant country roads. Another night, another scenic spot by the river. We're starting to get a hang of the routine now, where everything's kept. The following day we found lots of cool forest roads and we were able to link up the B roads that we're taking with lots of stretches of these forest roads. It might be a lot slower, but it's certainly a lot more interesting for us. As we've never used this vehicle for this kind of thing before, there's a bit of apprehension for the first week of the trip. And now, as we swap drivers and these off-road trails, we're starting to get a little bit more confident with it. Also, the dogs, confused at first as why we're not in the big truck, have slowly started to slip into a routine and realise that this is the state of the situation now. More coffee, more pastries, more off-road trails. Everything's seeming great. This is exactly what we wanted. Little trick that we learned. Cemeteries have always got a tap, so we can fill up our water tank for free using the cemetery fill point. Finally we cross into the Ardeche National Park, a part of France that we've absolutely fallen in love with. The weather's great, the sounds and sights are amazing, the sky's blue, everything's bliss. There's lots of off-road routes to take and we're feeling great. And that's when disaster strikes. Morning campers. So last night I pulled up off this little lane here, just off the main road. Looked really picturesque, and the plan was to reverse down the hill so that we could, just a little way down this hill, so that we could park the truck up here for a nice little overnight spot down by this river. Well, this is as far as we got down the hill before the clutch went, of all the places. And then while we were stressing about what we're going to do next, we've noticed this private property sign, which complicates things a bit. Our French recovery won't pull us off an off-road track, so we're currently waiting on the goodwill of mankind from some local French 4x4 groups to find someone to pull us backwards, and well, then I guess we'll see whether the clutch is totally gone or whether it's just struggling to bite enough under load. I'm thinking it's gone now. Which is strange. There was hasn't been slipping or anything. Yeah, always an adventure. But I guess with overlanding and being reliant on a vehicle, you have to expect these things. So I guess the plan there then will be to get recovered and then find a garage where we can get the clutch replaced, which in August is probably not going to be easy because a lot of the garages in France are shut for vacation season. Here's hoping. So that's how we've started day 4. Or day 3, day 4? I've lost track already now. It's Tuesday. Yeah, so day 4. Still, worst places to be stuck, eh? Whilst I might be a bit of a skeptic about the goodness of mankind, Jen is a real people person, and once again she manages to pull through. You gotta love the unity of the overland scene. The following morning, a local 4x4 enthusiast is out with his tractor and his pal, and they manage to pull us off the off-road lane down to the roadside, which means I'll be able to use my European breakdown cover. Well, this is a new one. Look, man, no hands. We've been in this position a few times now, broken down in France. So much that I feel I could do a whole video just on being prepared for breakdowns in France. Obviously, first and foremost is having good European breakdown cover. That is absolutely crucial. And then I guess there's other ways you can prepare, especially if you're overlanding. It helps to have a little bit of knowledge about your vehicle, as well as having your vehicle well maintained. We're pros at this now. It's a weird sensation. I don't think they do this in the UK, but It doesn't matter how well maintained a vehicle is, there can always be that one thing that goes that you didn't prepare for. We had just MOT'd this truck, given it a full service, thorough inspection, all the tyres were brand new. Mechanically she seemed spot on to me, but I guess the clutch is just that one thing that you just can't really inspect, and when it goes, it goes. In this kind of situation, the bit the French are good at is the recovery, or dépannage as they call it. Well, that's because that bit's easy money. Being in a jacked up 4x4 on the back of a high recovery vehicle as it flies around hairpin bends like this is a white knuckle roller coaster ride, let me tell you. Once you get recovered, that's when things get frustrating. Everything slows down from there. August is the worst time of year to break down in France, as 70% of the garages are away on vacation. There's a paper trail for everything. Add to that the language barrier. Everything seems so slow. You've got to be really firm with your breakdown people, and Jen's got pretty damn good at this. So much so that this time round we all felt actually fairly relaxed, and we spent the time while we were waiting exploring the countryside and just making the most of it. If you let yourself get into a rut and get depressed and mardy while you're waiting for insurance companies and breakdown people that seem to be doing nothing, it just makes the whole situation even worse. Keep a positive mindset and you'll find that everything turns out alright. I mean, at the end of the day, we're in our favourite part of France, we're all safe, we're not at work, nobody's hurt, it's not a major repair, and the weather's amazing. So it would be pretty foolish to get depressed and mardy about that. Most recovery places will give you some form of accommodation to cover you until your vehicle is fixed. So what I would suggest in that situation is find somewhere to be where there's plenty to do. That way on you'll not get bored. You'll also be able to get a hire van in certain circumstances, although ours would only give us one or the other. This meant anything we needed to fetch, anywhere we wanted to go, we had to do by foot. In previous years when we've been in this situation, we've had our bikes on the back of the camper van, but we didn't bring any bikes this year. We were just super hopeful that we were going to be able to get this situation resolved fairly quickly. In hindsight, we could have sped the situation along a little bit, possibly by as much as 3 days, if I'd just ordered the clutch in the first place. I knew straight away that it was the clutch that was gone, and yet we had to wait for garages to inspect, and then they wanted to know the part number. I already knew the part number. If I had just ordered the clutch like I thought about doing on the day we broke down, we'd have probably sped this up by at least 3 days. Whilst the accommodation that we'd found was nice, in a lovely area, and it was nice to stretch our legs and get some space, by day 5 we were starting to get cabin fever. That positive mindset I was talking about starts to become much more an effort. Tempers are getting short, people are snapping at each other. I can only imagine this would be an absolute nightmare if you had small children to keep occupied as well. It's bad enough keeping the dogs off each other's case. Today's the day. We're waiting for the call. Bonjour, your van is fixed. But still no call. So we are currently on day 7 in France, and we've been holed up for 5 days of that in this Airbnb following the clutch failure on our vehicle. Luckily, it's been a bit of a godsend because the host speaks perfect English and she was able to find us a garage that could get the work done pretty quickly, given that it's vacation season and the majority of places are now shut down in France. So that was a blessing. Hopefully we're picking the vehicle up today by dinner time with the clutch fixed and maybe even with the aircon belt repaired, which I didn't even realise had snapped until I looked in the engine to have a look what was going on. So it didn't need regassing, the belt had snapped. Would you believe it? But if he's not managed to source the belt, I'll try and source that myself and fix that on the road. But the important thing is we're going to get the vehicle back and continue with the road trip because everything seems to have ground to a halt, and we've been feeling like we've got a bit of cabin fever. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice place. We're in the Ardeche and we love the Ardeche. We are actually a little bit north to the bit that I really like, which is where you start to hear the cicadas and the terrain starts to get really arid, but it's still beautiful. I'll show you out here, like here's the balcony, and if you look into the distance there, you can see it's absolutely gorgeous. And yesterday we walked down the ravine into the river and spent the day chilling there, and the weather's been quite a bit nicer these last few days because it's been unseasonably cold since we've been in France actually for this time of year in this part of France. So fingers crossed, today's the day we can get back moving and we can get on with our journey and show you what it is we love about France and the Ardeche in particular, and show you some more of our awesome overland build that we've done. So we've got her back, or him, as we've chosen to call him, Derek. We've got him back, new clutch installed, taking it back to the garage Monday for the aircon belt. Well, look at tonight's spot. Wow. Beautiful. Let's get set up. Being back on the road, and especially being in the wilderness in such a serene spot with such phenomenal views over the lake below, spirits have really lifted. Everyone's feeling much better. It's hard to describe the feeling when you're totally reliant on your vehicle, when your vehicle is your home, and then something like this happens and your vehicle gets taken away from you and you're absolutely powerless to do anything about it. So when we got the truck back, there's a new lease of life. We set up camp, start cooking some hearty food, just relax at last. It's been particularly tough on Lanny. She doesn't deal with change well at the best of times, and she's got pretty thick-skinned when it comes to breakdowns. Like I say, we've done it a few times now. But as the sun goes down and the stars come out and the cicadas begin to sing, we're hopeful that tomorrow will bring the next part in our adventure.
So beautiful, so beautiful.